Hello everyone, Dice here, and today it's just going to be a simple rundown of ranged combat in Cyberpunk Red. No fluff, just an explanation as if I'm sitting right by you at your own table. If you're wanting a much more detailed breakdown, there are other videos out there including one of my own, but this is just to get you going. This is just a nutshell explanation. Ranged combat makes up the bulk of the fighting in Cyberpunk Red, and the variety of ranged weapons is pretty staggering. The good thing is that, by design, Cyberpunk Red breaks down weapons into weapon types that follow the same general rules. So, no matter the name, just identify the weapon type, and it gets a lot easier after that to remember things. All ranged combat is governed by your reflex stat, the skill that's required by the weapon, and a simple D10 roll. Defending, though, comes down to the distance between you and your target, which is governed by a number called the difficulty value, or DV for short. If you roll the same as this number, who you're firing at is still not hit. You have to roll over it. No meets it beats it in Cyberpunk Red. There is a second way to defend against this gunfire, which is actually tied to certain circumstances. You must have a reflex stat over 8, or a piece of cyberware that allows it. And you must declare that you are going to dodge the bullet before any dice are rolled for the attack. You cannot wait to see what your GM is going to roll before you decide to dodge it or not. If you cannot see the attack coming, you also cannot dodge in this way too. And if you fail to dodge the bullet, which means your GM rolls higher than you whenever you try to dodge it, you take the hit outright. It doesn't fall back to the weapon's DV, you take the hit. So, careful. Some can argue bullet dodging is very powerful, but it can be a real big risk as well. You're chalking everything up rather than things you can consistently control like cover or armor. The main things you need to remember, no matter the weapon, is your damage for a single shot, the skill used to fire your weapon, and what's called your range difficulty value for that weapon as I mentioned a bit ago. So, just really 3 things. You'll find the DV for your weapon by consulting the chart that's available in the core rulebook or easy mode, and I'll put the page numbers down below in the doobly-doo. Easy mode's version, by the way, is a much smaller list. It's not as complete as the one in the core rulebook, but if you're using any of the weapons in easy mode, there's your quick reference point. Each weapon type has its own DV to hit, and its own damage and properties. The good thing though is, all you need to remember is what the weapons you use will do. You do not need to memorize the entire chart, just 1 or 2 things that you're using and any special traits they may have, like if they have auto-fire or can ignore an enemy's armor entirely. You'll want to pay attention to your weapon's sweet spot, where the DV is the lowest, which, for example, for pistols and shotguns, it's point blank to 3 tiles out at 13 DV. You'll want to keep your enemy in that range for the easiest chance to hit and deal damage. When you hit your target, you'll apply your damage first against any armor they may be wearing. You'll subtract the armor's stopping power, or SP, from the damage. If you cannot deal more damage than their SP, you deal 0 damage to them and you don't damage their armor. If you manage to get even 1 damage over their SP and hit their HP, you'll damage their armor and reduce its effectiveness by 1, and this is called ablation, by the way. Something to keep in mind, no matter how high over you deal damage to them beyond their armor, the SP only ever drops by 1, unless due to some special effect. And as always, the description and traits of the weapon will override normal rules when they say to. There is also special ammo types and grenades and you name it, but for now, this should give you a general idea of ranged combat, and up next, I'll be going over what the more unique situations are in melee combat and ranged combat all in one video. It should get the point across. Take care everyone, and I hope you find yourselves a good table.